Right now, gold is trading above $4,000 an ounce. 3 years ago, it was under 2,000. It didn't double because gold got more valuable. It doubled because the dollar sitting in your bank account got weaker. And here's the part that should actually worry you. The people running the world's central banks already know this, which is why they bought over 860 tons of gold last year alone. And they're still buying right now, in the middle of this year, faster than almost anyone in the media is talking about. So in this video, I want to explain what's actually happening, why it's happening, and what it means for your money, especially if you're getting close to retirement or you're already living off what you've saved. Hi, my name is Jeff Reed. Hope you're doing well. Stick around for the finance. Stay for the part where I show you exactly what the smartest institutions on the planet are doing with their own reserves right now, because it's not what most people are being told to do with theirs. Let's start with the basics, because I want everyone watching this to actually understand it, not just nod along. A bond is basically an IOU. When the US government needs money, it doesn't just print it and hand it out. Well, sometimes it does, but mostly it borrows it. It sells a piece of paper that says, "Give me your money now, and I'll pay you back later with interest." Right now, the interest rate on a 10-year version of that IOU is sitting around 4.5%. That might sound fine on paper, but here's the question nobody asks. Why would anyone demand 4.5% to lend money to the single most powerful government in the world? Shouldn't that be the safest bet on earth? The answer is inflation. Inflation is not really about things getting more expensive. It's about the ruler we're using to measure value getting shorter. The dollar is the ruler, and it's been shrinking for decades. Right now, the Fed's preferred inflation measure is running north of 4% a year, the highest it's been in years, while the Federal Reserve is holding interest rates in the 3.5 to 3.75 range. Do the math on that for a second. If prices are rising faster than the return you're getting paid to hold cash, you are losing money every single day, just more slowly than you'd lose it under a mattress. Okay, so why does that matter for you specifically? Because your retirement account isn't measured in some abstract global economy, it's measured in dollars. And if the dollar is the thing losing value, then everything priced in dollars, including your 401k balance, is quietly losing real purchasing power, even while the number on the screen goes up. Now let's talk about reason number one, which is the debt. The national debt just crossed roughly $39 trillion. Let that number sit for a second. 39 trillion. That's not a number the government can realistically tax its way out of, and it's definitely not one it can cut its way out of, because that would mean gutting Social Security and Medicare, and no politician in either party is going to win an election doing that. So what's left? There's really only one lever that doesn't require asking permission from voters. Let inflation quietly do the work. Make the debt smaller in real terms by making the dollar worth less. It's the invisible tax, the one nobody votes for, and almost nobody notices happening to them personally. And this raises the next question. If that's the plan, even an unspoken one, what would the smartest players in the world be doing about it right now? That brings me to reason number two, what the central banks are actually doing with their own money. In 2025, the world's central banks bought a net 863 tons of gold. That's not a typo, and that's not some fringe conspiracy number. That's from the World Gold Council's own reporting. Poland alone added over 100 tons, and this isn't slowing down. Just this past May, central banks added another 40 plus tons in a single month, with Poland, China, and Uzbekistan all stacking. Ask yourself, why would the institutions that literally print currency for a living be trading some of their own currency reserves for a shiny yellow metal that pays no interest and just sits in a vault? If the dollar system were healthy and stable, that behavior makes no sense. If it's not, it makes all the sense in the world. Real quick, because this part actually matters for people watching this specifically. If you've got $100,000 or more sitting in a retirement account, a 401k, an IRA, something like that, this is exactly the kind of environment where the decisions you make now compound for the rest of your life. I put together a free retirement protection guide that breaks down step by step, in plain English, what people in your position can actually do about this. It's linked in the description, and there's a QR code on screen right now if that's easier. Anyway, back to it. Reason number three, history already ran this experiment, and we have the results. Back in 1970, the US government faced a version of this same impossible math. They couldn't raise taxes without losing elections. They couldn't cut Social Security without losing elections. So they picked the option that doesn't require a vote. They inflated their way out. Over the following decade, the purchasing power of the dollar fell by roughly half. An older American collecting $400 a month in Social Security in 1970 was still collecting $400 a month in 1980. Same check, same number, except that check now bought about half of what it used to buy. Meanwhile, gold went from $35 an ounce to $850 an ounce in that same window. That's not inflation happening to gold. That's gold simply refusing to shrink while the dollar shrank around it. Think about what that actually did to real people who had already retired going into that decade. Their income stayed exactly the same on paper. Their grocery bills, their heating bills, their rent, none of that stayed the same. That's the part nobody warns retirees about, because it doesn't show up as a single dramatic headline. It shows up slowly in 1,000 small moments of things costing more than they used to. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because we're not just repeating 1970. We're doing it with a bond market that's actually paying attention this time. When professional bond investors look out 10, 20, 30 years and demand 4.5% just to hold US debt, they're not being greedy. They're pricing in the expectation that the government's only realistic path is to keep printing and let the currency absorb the damage. Silver, for what it's worth, is telling a similar story right now, trading near $60 an ounce, a level that would have sounded absurd not that long ago. That's not random speculation. That's capital quietly repositioning around an assumption that the dollar you're holding today buys less tomorrow, guaranteed. So let me tie this all together. The debt is too large to responsibly service at current rates. The Fed is stuck trying to fight inflation without triggering a recession, which is like trying to walk a tightrope in an earthquake. Central banks, the actual experts, the ones with access to information most of us will never see, are voting with real money, not opinions, and they're voting for hard assets over paper promises. And history already showed us, in vivid detail, what a decade of currency devaluation does to someone who's already retired and living on a fixed income. None of this requires a crash, a collapse, or a headline event to hurt you. It just requires this same trend continuing quietly for another 5 or 10 years while your savings sit exposed to it. I want to be really clear about something before I wrap up, because I think it matters more than anything else in this video. I'm not telling you the sky is falling, and I'm not telling you your savings will be wiped out on some specific date. Nobody honest can promise you that, and anyone who does is selling you fear, not information. What I am telling you is what's genuinely happening, documented, verifiable, happening right now, and that the people who actually run the system are positioning their own reserves accordingly. The question isn't whether this is real. The question is simply whether you're paying attention to it before it shows up in your own numbers, instead of theirs. And look, if today's video raised more questions than it answered about your own retirement savings, that free retirement protection guide is still down in the description, and the QR code is back on screen one more time. It walks through plainly what diversification actually looks like in an environment like this one. And if you've got $100,000 or more saved up, it also includes access to a free one-on-one educational web conference. No obligation, just answers to your specific questions. It costs you nothing to be informed, and given everything we just went through, that's about as good a trade as you're going to find right now. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.